Good men do the things they like to do. Great men do the things they need to do. But champions do the things they hate to do, to grow, to achieve, and to overcome all obstacles in their path. To learn more, visit www.evenplace.com.
Just give you a little brief explanation of why we decided to do something here. The name of the place, we're calling it the Even Place, and pretty much what we're doing is we're just taking a holistic approach, looking at three parts of you. There's a spirit part of you, there's a mind or soul. The soul is the mind, the will, the intellect, and the emotion. So when I say soul, that's what I'm referring to. And we have to have spiritual intelligence, we have to have soul intelligence, and also we have to have body intelligence. And we're trying to work on all three of them. We mentioned last week, for example, in the body, I am in the process of losing some weight, even though I do need to lose a little bit more. But since January, I've been losing at least 2 pounds a week. I've lost 46 pounds, and my goal is to knock down about another 90 pounds, because they say for a person at my size frame, 6'2", I only supposed to weigh 190 pounds. So when you see Bomani, who will come down here in a few seconds, who work in the audio board, I'm going to look about like him, hopefully within another year period of time. But there's wisdom in terms of losing weight, and I'm studying it. I have a nutritionist, for example, same nutritionist who helped George Foreman when he was fighting. She's helping me. She's called the Juice Lady. You can look her up at thejuicelady.com. I also have a physical trainer. She trained Jackie O when she was around this same age, because I want a trainer who knows what it is to be at this particular age and to be able to train your body. What I made a decision was on January the 19th, I said I'm going to become 19 years of age, and I'm going to start weighing 190 pounds. The reason why I gave myself a age of 19 is because you have to think a certain kind of way. And I said I got to think young. So during the wintertime when it was cold outside, I said, well, if I was 19 years of age, not 56, would I go out and work? Because if I was 56, I would find an excuse. But when you were 19 years of age, you didn't have no excuse. If it was raining, cold, or whatever, you'd be on the ball court, or the case may be. So there's a physical aspect. So every day, every morning, I do a weigh-in to see how much I can eat that day or how little I can eat that day. So far, I'm on water because I did have me some, what did I have? Red velvet cake last night. So when I checked my weight this morning, I said I can't do but so much. So I have water for breakfast and water for lunch, and hopefully my wonderful baby girl going to take me out to dinner, and then I can eat a little bit later on. But that's dealing with the physical body. I'm learning a lot about the physical body. I want to be in tune with my physical body. Did you realize if you're in tune with your physical body, there are a lot of sickness and diseases you don't have to go through? When there's pain in my body, a lot of times I realize, what am I angry about? What am I guilty about? And I begin to realize that my body's begin to tell me through the pain that there's something wrong, and I need to correct that and change that. Then the mind, you have to have emotional intelligence. To be able to know when to smile at somebody, when to be upset with somebody, when to joke with somebody, when not to joke with somebody. How do you connect with somebody, not connect with somebody? We all connect with individuals on some type of emotional level, and so we need to have emotional intelligence. Also, when we say spirit, we believe that there is a God. We believe that many times the challenge is that perhaps people's interpretation of how to relate to him, many people have problems with. And so a lot of times a person may get confused who God is based upon a particular denomination or faith or religion per se. But we do believe in one, and also we do believe in the beauty of the sunshine as well as the beauty of the clouds, the beauty of everything. It's very, very important. So we call this place the Even Place. It's based upon a scripture from the psalmist David, the 26th chapter. My feet standeth on an even place, in the congregations will I bless the Lord. The connotation for that is that no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, I want to, through these lessons here and as we expand, we're going to give you information so that you can handle any type of situation. Again, if you go to our website, one reason why we created the website is to have 8,000 interviews from all types of individuals that I have relationships with, whether it's Steve Forbes, the billionaire, Tom Joyner, the anchor for his own radio show. Today, we're going to have different persons come in. Every week, I'll have someone come in on different subjects so we can be very, very knowledgeable about all things in life, about business, about politics, about cooking, whatever the case may be. So our approach is going to always be a holistic approach, spirit, soul, and body, so that you can be equipped in everything you do. I gave the illustration the other day concerning the fact is, any of you doing cooking? You doing cooking? You doing cooking? You cooking anything? Okay, for example, the other day I called a friend of mine. He was on the program 2 weeks ago, James L. Giles. I said, I want to cook me a little petite filet mignon. And I said, what should I do? He asked me an interesting question. He said, what is my Trinity? And I didn't know what a Trinity was. And they said, you don't know what a Trinity is? I said, no, I hadn't but as much as heard of a Trinity. He said, what you want to do is, want you to try a little bit of garlic, fresh garlic, some sweet onions, and some portobello mushrooms, 3 things. And so a lot of times now when I cook me something, I always look at what are the 3 ingredients I'm going to start out with. Now, I'll add some other things to it. I do have some secret ingredients, but there are 3 basic kinds of things I will start out with in order to make that particular thing sing and pop. And so I sliced up some sweet onions, I sliced up some garlic, I sliced up some portobello mushrooms, and I added some wine and some butter, some other things, and I had me a nice little petite 6-ounce filet mignon. It came out really good. The other day I was watching TV, I was learning about some Asian flavors, because one of the things now, since I'm on a new diet, I'm very limited on what I can eat in terms of, in order for me to continue to lose weight, because I have to lose at least 2 pounds every week. So I was looking at some Chinese Trinity, which was ginger, it was garlic, and also it was scallions. And so I'm gonna try that. That's a Trinity for that. Everything, and I look at a lot of things in 3s. There's an expression that Solomon said a 3/4 cord cannot be easily broken. And so we have 3 things that we want to convey here: discernment, balance, and fitness. Discernment, balance, and fitness. And a lot of things I want to be sharing in the next few minutes is going to be from a sheet of paper that you have on your desk called Wisdom is the Principal Thing. Wisdom is the principal thing. And so discernment is how to distinguish things. Everything doesn't have the same kind of value. When I'm wearing a Brioni suit, that has a certain kind of value because that's a $2,000 suit. But if I'm wearing something, they don't have it anymore. But there used to be a place when I was growing up in D.C. called Morton's. And you remember? You remember Morton's? You remember? Are you from D.C.? There was a place called Morton's. Now, if you get the suit from Morton's suit will only cost you $20. Okay, so there's a difference between a $20 suit. There's a place that sells suit that I went to one time. It's called James. And I was watching the movie, James Bond movie, and in that particular movie, he had these suits called Brioni suits. I had never put on a Brioni suit, but a Brioni suit is, at that time, it was about 10 years ago, I'm not sure how much they cost now, they're probably about a $3,000 suit. And I never put one on. And I was told that they're very handmade, and they lay and they flow and feel flat on you in a certain kind of way. And so what was amazing was I went to this place called James, and I went inside and I tried one of those suits on, and it felt like I was in pajamas. I felt like I was in pajamas. And the suit just felt so good, and I was walking around the store, and I almost was ready to walk out, but I had to realize I hadn't paid for the suit. So, you know, when you go in a store like that, they assume that you know what things cost, and they assume that you got the juice in order to buy a particular suit. But unfortunately, I didn't have the juice at that particular time to get the suit. So he looking at me and said, how many do you want? He didn't ask me that I like that one. He wanted to know how many others like that I want. And unfortunately, I was not willing and able to, at that particular point in time, to pay the price. And too often in life, we got to realize in order for us to have quality in certain things in life, we got to be willing to pay the price. And I was not willing to pay $3,000 at that particular time for that suit. Hopefully one day I will. It's the difference between that suit and a $20 suit. Discernment is distinguish the value of one thing versus something else. If I have a pair of jeans on, there may be a tendency for me to throw it on the floor. But if I have a very expensive piece of garment, I will hang it up a certain kind of way. That's discernment. Everyone doesn't treat everyone the same way. You need to discern how to treat everyone differently. The second thing is balance, equilibrium, or portion. There are portions that each and every one of you get. I remember when I was in sales for ABC and NBC, we would always have a target. For example, when I went to grad school, I was taught by NBC4. They would tell us that we had to get 33% of the budget. We always wanted to get our portion. We got 33% at that time. Channel 9 got 33% of the time, and ABC got 33% of the time. Channel 20, Channel 50 had to fight over the other 8%. But if I didn't come back with 33% of the budget, I would lose my job because I had to get my portion. There are certain things in life you are entitled to. And I want to help you to be able to get whatever you're entitled to get your balance or portion in life. The third thing is fitness. Fitness is conditioning. Fitness is stability. Fitness is being able to live at full potential. Each and every one of us were created to be the best of who you are. And if you're the best of who you are, you can't be stopped. Too often, there's a tendency to compare yourself with someone else. But I want to help you to compare yourself with your standards and you being the very best that you can be. Today's lesson we're going to finish will be lesson number 2. It's going to be entitled, Wisdom is the Principal Thing. Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom. It's based upon Proverbs, the 4th chapter, verse number 7. It goes on to say, with all thy getting, get an understanding. Exalt her, and she shall promote thee. She shall bring thee to honor when thou shalt embrace her. She shall give thine head an ointment of grace. A crown of glory shall she deliver to thee. That is from Proverbs, the 4th chapter, verses 7 through 9. I want you to look at one word in there, or two words. Wisdom is the principal thing. Wisdom is the main thing. And also, when you have wisdom, you understand that there are not only things that are valuable like money, but also another important thing that's very valuable is honor. I don't know if you heard of this story before, but there's a famous story concerning the subject of honor. There was a young lawyer who wanted to be able to get some business from his particular town. And he was a new lawyer, but he knew that if he could get in contact with the local Perry Mason, the most important lawyer in town, that he would give him some wisdom and advice. So this young lawyer would call the Perry Mason of that day up every day and try to get an appointment to him. He would call him one day, no response. He'd write him a letter, no response. He'd call him another time, write him a letter. Every day he tried to pursue and to get this particular person to pay him some mind and to mentor him. So he kept doing it for weeks and weeks and weeks. At the same time, as he was pursuing this guy, he began to do his casework, his case study, defend people, and he was known in the community as a pretty good lawyer. One day, the Perry Mason of that town began to notice him and say, you know what, I'm going to do something for this guy. So he called the young lawyer up and he said, let's go for a walk. And so what happened was, I'm not sure if you're familiar with, in most communities, like for example here in D.C., down around the Mayflower Hotel, a lot of the real estate developers are around the Mayflower Hotel. When I studied in London, there was a place called Fleet Street. All the newspaper firms in Fleet Street in London would be in together. For whatever reason, in this particular town, all the lawyers in that particular community all reside in the same business district. So what happened was this Perry Mason lawyer called the young guy up and said, I'll finally meet with you. So the young lawyer was thinking that they were going to meet and talk. He was going to give him all the secrets of how he was going to become a great lawyer. But what happened was the older lawyer put his arm around this young guy and he walked up and down the street, didn't say anything. He just walked up and down the street, He put his arm on the other side. He walked up and down the street and walked up and down the street. And then at the end of him walking him up and down the street, he didn't say nothing the whole time. And then he left him and said goodbye. And the young guy was wondering why he just walked up and down the street with him. He didn't say anything to him. He didn't do anything. But when the young guy got back to his office, because all the other lawyers and all the other businesses around that community saw him with that very famous Perry Mason, they said, he must be a very powerful, upcoming hotshot. I want him to do my business. So he didn't get business because of him getting any particular advice. He got the honor of being in that guy's presence, and because of him being in that guy's presence, he was able to get business, and he became a very, very famous lawyer because he was honored. The first 5 commandments in the book of Genesis deal with the subject of honor. If you look on page number 3, honor no other gods, honor no other images, honor his name, honor the Sabbath day, and today, for example, honor thy father and thy mother. So a lot of things in life you're going to get because of honor. You're going to get because you show some respect to someone. And too often, many times, we try to do things and we don't realize if you honor. For example, right now, there is electrical outlets here around this particular room here. For some reason, I don't wet my finger and stick it in that socket there because I honor the power of electricity. Electricity could be used to power things, but also if you don't use that power correctly, it can shock the living daylights out of you. Let's go back to page number 1. I want us to look at something here on page number 1. At the bottom of it, I quote something from the book of Isaiah, the 55th chapter. It says, Ho, everyone that thirsteth, come to the waters, and he that has no money, come ye buy, eat, yea, come buy wine and milk without money and without price. I'm going to look at this again. It says, I want your attention here. If you're thirsty, you can get water. If you have no money, buy. If you want to eat, not only can you eat, but you can eat wine and you can have milk without money and without price. So at the first part of that, he's saying something that seems to be very interesting. You mean tell me I can live in this world, I can exist in this world, and I can be thirsty and I can still drink. I can have no money, I can buy. But not only buy, I can buy quality things. What's the secret of this? How can I do it? It's interesting. Every day I hear and talk to people. One person says there's a recession, the economy is bad. The next person I see and I talk to, and I don't know if you're on Facebook. One thing I like about some of my Facebook friends, we have about 10,000 on Facebook, is it's amazing. A lot of people are living a wonderful, wonderful life. They ain't hurting. They're not struggling. They living a good life. And sometimes I like to watch Discovery or the Travel Channel and just see this is a wonderful world. People are doing well. So what is it between one person has a 24-hour period of time and is doing bad, another person has a 24-hour period of time and not doing so well? It's all in their thoughts. So it says here in verse number 6 of that Isaiah, the 55th chapter, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. If you don't have any money, you don't have a money problem, you have a thought problem. You have a consciousness problem. And if you change the way and your perspective of how you see things and look at things, it will make the difference in your life. It will make the difference in your life. If you learn how to be around people, there's people, when I was talking to the book that you got there, I went down to visit him. I had a chance to meet him. And I drove in my car about 15 hours from D.C. down to Florida to meet this particular man, Bob Williamson. And he just sat there and told me all kinds of things about how to run a business, what his net worth was, and how he put things together. Too often, we don't take the time to go meet people who are doing well. Too often, we can be intimidated by them. For often, we can shrink. But the best thing you can do is be around someone who's better than you. I don't know if any of you play basketball, but there was a period of time that I attempted to play basketball. And I used to play basketball in a place called Edgewood here in Northeast Washington, D.C. Whenever we would be able to beat the players on our basketball court, we didn't stop there. We would always seek out going to Taft or other places to learn how to improve our skills. We need to do the same thing concerning our consciousness. There are people who have more, do more, are able to have more, and it all is determined by the way you think. And we want to encourage you to understand that concept. Look at page number 2. And I mentioned the other day, for those of you, we're going to mention again, why are we starting this in a home? The reason why we're starting this in a home is that I believe that you learn a whole lot of things about life from your home. I mentioned last week, for example, that President Barack Obama gave one of the greatest speeches concerning race. I thought it was a great speech, but my father gave me a much better speech. Back in the day when we were growing up in the 50s and the 60s, we would drive from D.C. to South Carolina. I didn't realize why we didn't stop. I didn't know why we didn't stop. I love to go down to South Carolina because one thing we did, and something we didn't do with you, is we would put our food in a shoebox. I don't know if any of you ever had food that way, but it was some of the best chicken my mother would fry and put in saran wrap and then Reynolds wrap inside of a shoebox, plus some potato salad and plus some pound cake. That was and some rolls. She had to make the rolls to kind of rise the day before. And we would put them all in a little shoebox. And we would drive a Plymouth. And what would happen, my father would be sitting here. My younger brother, Michael, would be sitting in the middle. My mother was sitting here. Back in those days, there used to be, I guess the axle was in the middle of the car, because what happened was one would sleep in that part of the floor, another would sleep on that part of the floor, and then someone would sleep on the chair. And in fact, back in those days, we didn't have to have your seatbelt on. Some used to sleep in the window. We slept everywhere within the car, and we would drive. And then it's just then dawned on me as now I'm older, why we never just stopped. Also, we didn't go to rest areas. When we had to go to the bathroom, my father would pull to the side of the road, and we would run into the woods and do our thing and come back to the car. And every now and then, my father's speech on race when we go to South Carolina is these few words: watch out for Charlie. That was it. He didn't explain what that meant, but he just said, watch out for Charlie. And I always thought about that. And he was just saying, that's what you got to do back in those kind of days, in terms of that was what he gave me wisdom for that. I gave the story last week concerning the fact is that when I wanted to go to college, I went to my father and I wanted to go to American University over in Northwest Washington, D.C. to take broadcast journalism and eventually broadcast management. I said, Dad, I want to go to college. He said, God bless you. I said, Dad, I want to go to college. He said, God bless you. I said, Dad, I want to go to college. He says, God bless you. And, I'm looking at my father, and I hate to admit it, but I'm looking at my father and said, well, poor Dad, he only had a sixth grade education. My mother only had a high school education. They don't understand about these kind of things. But my father actually gave me my first college lesson, which was this: son, if you want to go to school, you got to pay for it yourself. I was so upset with my father that he didn't have enough money to pay for my education. I slammed out the house. Then I thought about it. I said, that ain't going to do any good. I sit there and wrote a little letter to the school and said, my father has no money and I want to go to school because he's broke. And they wrote me back and they gave me a college education for 4 years. Now, if my father hadn't done that for me, I would have never known what my potential could be. I'm thinking that because he only had a sixth grade education, he didn't have wisdom. But no, he had more wisdom than I could ever imagine. And I had to come back to him and apologize. He was pushing buttons in me for me to become a better man that I would never have been able to become, because he was telling me, son, these kind of things you can do on your own. His thinking was different from my thinking. As I mentioned on page number 3, I want you to begin to look at, where do you get your information about health? Where do you get your information about spirituality? Where do you get your information about all kinds of things in life? That shapes your thinking. That shapes who you are as an individual. And it's very, very important and very, very mindful that you need to watch where you get your information, because that will determine whether or not you're going to increase in life. Also, that will determine whether or not you're going to decrease in life. It's very, very important that you understand where you get information. We just want to give you one little story here before we go. Back to the original thought here, which was, ho, everyone that thirsteth, come to the waters, and he that has no money, come ye buy, yes, eat, come buy wine and milk without money and without price. There was a story, you may have heard the story, but it bears repeating. There was a lady who had to go get something to eat, and she went to the grocery store. And as she went to the grocery store to get something to eat, she went through the produce section, got her fruits and the vegetables. She went to the meat section, got her chicken and pork chops, whatever the case may be, got her cake mix, and she went and got a whole group of food, and she filled up her cart, and she just drove around the store, a woman of faith, a woman of spirituality, and she just rode around the whole particular supermarket to get her food. And she kept piling on the food, and she got to the cash register. And so the lady began to scan one item, scan another item, scan an item, scan another particular item, as she was beginning to put that food within the basket and everything. At the end of the tallying everything, the cashier told the lady how much the bill for the food was. So all of a sudden, this old lady, she just grabbed a sheet of paper and she wrote down 7 words and just wrote it down. And she handed it to the lady. The lady looked at her, she was crazy. She said, I need some cash. I need a debit card. She said, that's all I got. And she said, she looked at the lady, she said, this lady's crazy. But she saw something inside that lady's eyes after this lady sat down and wrote these 7 words on a sheet of paper. Then she called the manager over, and the manager looked at the sheet of paper, and he looked at the 7 words that the lady had. He looked at her, and she said, you know what? Just take the food. Just take the food. Just take the food. And so everybody wanted to know what was the 7 words on that sheet of paper. And the 7 words were, the Lord will make a way somehow. She just knew somehow that despite the fact that she didn't have any money, despite the fact that she didn't have anything to give them, the Lord was going to make a way. And she believed that if she just wrote those words down on a piece of paper and give it to the cashier, they would have enough faith. And because she did it, and he says, well, you know what? If you have enough gumption, you have enough faith to do that, you can have this food. Now, I'm not suggesting that today you go out to the store or go to the restaurant, eat a whole meal and do that. But if the Spirit tells you to do that, go for it. But the point I'm trying to say is sometimes the life will give you a way of achieving things if we change our thinking and change our thoughts. And if you begin to do that, you'll be successful. And we're talking about wisdom is the principal thing.
My